So now we're going to be doing a lot of factoring. So in this case, we want to find the solutions, roots, or anything else for the problems, or else it really just says solve. So if it says solve, that means that we are going to have to factor it. There's a number of different ways to factor, but what's really important in terms of understanding this is that you can use whatever way that you want. So we can use complete the square, we can use the box method, we can use pretty much anything to be able to um, solve this type of problem. So that's what we want to do whenever we're working with one of these problems, is try to figure out what is the best method to be able to figure everything out and be able to solve this particular problem. So in this particular case, we have minus 2x squared plus 3x minus 6. We can look at, okay, what is going to be a good way to do it? Let's say that we pick the box method. If we're doing the box method, we need to make sure that the number in front is positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to multiply the entire equation by -1 to solve this. So we have, notice it's not saying to graph it, so I don't have to worry about that. Minus 3x plus 6 equals 0. And now we can go ahead and do the box method. So I'm going to go through the different methods just to show you what it is that we need to do. Anytime we have a number in front, that means we're going to end up having to use the box method. But what we do first is we multiply the 2 times the 6, which is these two numbers. Always multiply first and last. That is equal to 12. We're then going to, at that point, break it up. So we're going to break this one up and we're going to figure out all the multiples. But before we do that, notice we have a positive here, which means both signs are the same. This tells me that both signs are negative. Okay, so we have to kind of figure out what we can do, get out of 12 so that so we can figure out what this particular problem is. So as we go through it, we're going to kind of figure things out. Now notice that I'm not going to be able to find anything. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, 1 and 12. I'm going to try -2 and -6. I'm going to try negative, because neither of those work, -3 and -4. Notice how none of those are adding up to those problems. So if I can't find anything, I'm stumped. I can't go any further because I can't do -4, 3 because my numbers always stay the lowest on the left side. So it's easier now to use, and I'm going to actually go right back up to the very beginning. So I'm going to use these values up here. It doesn't really matter. It shouldn't change the problem. So I'm going to do A equals -2, B equals 3, and C equals -6. So then we're going to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is B squared plus or minus the square root of, minus B. See, this is what happens when I don't have my notes right sitting in front of me. Minus B plus or minus B squared. I'm going to put parentheses around that so I remember to put parentheses. A times C. I'm always going to do that so that I always remember. Always put parentheses around things that you're going to multiply. That way then you don't have to worry about leaving them out. Okay, so -B, which is -3, plus or minus the square root of B squared. So B squared would be 9 because B is 3. And then we have -4 times A times C. And then that's all over 2 times A, which is -2. Okay, so now we're going to go through and do that. Notice I did not leave myself enough room. So we have -3 plus or minus, and then I have 9. I have 1, 2, 3 negatives, so it's going to be negative. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. And then 2 times -2 is -4. So then I'm going to have in the numerator -3 plus or minus the square root of -37, because 9 minus 48 over -4. And as a final answer, like I said, I should have left myself with more room here. As a final answer, I'm going to kind of come down here. So I have that equals -3 plus or minus I, because the square root of a negative is I, square root of 37. I just took out the negative before I tried to reduce the 37, over negative 4. I would consider this the right answer. If you wanted to write it out, you could, meaning as separate terms. It could be positive 3 over 4 because the negatives cancel on those, plus or minus I times the square root of 37 over 4. And even though there's a negative on here, and it will switch the signs, so it'll switch them from plus minus to minus plus, you always write the plus on top. But this would be your answer anyway. Okay, so now we have this one. So notice here, I'm going to see, okay, is it a possibility for me to be able to factor this? And we can take a look at the negative 40. So if I use negative 40, because here's a 1 here, so it'd be 1 times negative 40, which of course is equal to negative 40. So I have, in this particular case, I've got negative 40, and I need to split that up. So the negative tells me, this negative tells me that I have one of them is positive, one of them is negative. This one tells me that the larger one is positive. So I know it's going to look like that. Okay, so let's see if there's anything that we can find. So 1 and 40, obviously, negative 1 and positive 40 do not add up to 3. 2 and 20. 3 doesn't go into 40. 4 does. 4 and 10. 5 does. 5 and 8. And there it is. Those two add up to 3. Because there's a 1 in front, I can just factor this right away. So I have x minus 5 times x plus 8 equals 0. So x equals 5, x equals negative 8. Okay, so there are my two answers. Okay, 4x squared plus 17x minus 15. In this particular case, you can see that I don't have anything that's really easy to be able to figure out. I am going to check to see if I can factor this using the box method, but you could also use the quadratic formula, so whichever one that you want to do, but I'm going to do the box method on this one. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. 4 times negative 15 equals negative 60. That's what we have with that one. And I'm just checking to see if I actually want to keep going here. The only reason that I say that is because we're at 7 minutes. And I just want to make sure that we're okay there. But let's go ahead and keep going on this one. And I think we have 3 more. So I think I'm going to stop here and I'm just going to go to the next video.